And good evening, I'm Marty Olsen, and welcome to City Focus. And tonight, I'm delighted to welcome back to the program Mr. New London. Matter of fact, I think we've got him down as hardcore New London tonight, Mr. Mike McLaughlin. So, Mike.
Good to see you, Marty. Welcome to be back, even though we're in a different place. But it's a beautiful building, beautiful place. I think we've done well to come here because it's really nice. But I have one question to start the show because we have a ton of things to talk about tonight. If you were the mayor, and you have been the mayor, although it was an honorary mayor, okay, but you were, would there be a Sail Fest this year?
I would have had Sailfest.
Okay. I'm not saying the mayor was the one who chose not to have it, but I'm saying if you were the mayor, would we
Quite
have
frankly, I'm a little bit disappointed in the lack of backbone of the mayor. I mean, he threw Barbara Neff under the bus on that.
it? Well,
And
how do we know we weren't there? But I just wanted to know if you'd have it, because I don't want to get into that, because that's a whole show, because we have something that you wanted to talk to.
well, I do.
Is equally meaningful to many of the people in New London as that.
Well,
Okay.
I would say that the big ticket news item for New London this week is the death of Gil Vargas,
Yeah, I mean,
longtime coach and baseball coach,
Football.
and gym teacher, football coach at New London High School, and Gil came into New London, I believe, when I was a freshman or thereabouts, and my freshman year he was an assistant baseball coach to Salamonte.
Yep, which is quite a thing.
And going back a number of years, and Sal had a good run as the baseball coach.
Solid, decent run as basketball coach too.
And Gil, they brought in, he was a young man.
Yep.
And he was an assistant coach for Jimmy Bunicor,
In football.
defensive coach on the football squad, and along with Joe McNeil, who coached the line.
Oh, yeah.
And
Those were the days. They were, you look at the situation, and like I knew of Gil Vargas when he coached for New London. We did some baseball games, so we talked to him obviously before, but I really got to know him when he left New London and went to Avery Point, and we worked with Roger Bidwell, and he worked with and we traveled, we went to Memphis one time together, we did all, and he was just such a knowledgeable person, and as rough and as gruff as he would prepare, he had nothing but the best for the kids that he wanted. That's the big thing about it. I don't want to compare anybody to anybody, but some people are very, very misread, okay? Gil Vargas, to some people, is one of the greatest people that ever was, which is true, and I'll vote for that. Here I am. To some people, that coached against him and lost all the time, he was not as favorable. Okay, and you have people in New London like that. You have Jackie Cochran, who thought only of nothing but the London kids. And I'll never forget Jackie Cochran when he told his leading running back, because he didn't pass in his grade form, because every week they had to do, and he couldn't play that week. Okay, because that's how they still won by whatever. And then you have other people like that, and you have people. London had a group of people, and Casey O'Neill said it very good in the paper today. Okay, and Jimmy O'Neill was another part of baseball. Jimmy O'Neill greatly benefited because Gil was such a good coach. Jimmy got some real good New London players for his Legion team, so it was all. And these guys are guys that make New London.
yeah. Well, Gil won 4 state champions out of his 32 years as the baseball coach.
Yes.
That's a long tenure.
Yeah.
And I would say in his early years, because I was there during his early years, and that he ran a pretty kind of marine type of environment. I mean, you hustled, and I think he wanted his players to have kind of a Pete Rose mentality. I mean, if you walked, you didn't walk to first base, you sprinted to first base. And you, at the end of an inning or at the beginning of an inning, you would sprint in and out of the field. And if you didn't, you didn't play.
And you kept your mouth shut on the field because Gil was the man who spoke to the umpires. Kids went to colleges, kids went things that played for him because he taught them an amazing thing called discipline.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big parts of it, because if you become a disciplined person and you have skills, you become even better. And that's one of the things he did. You did not horse around when he played, because New London was winning everything then. We were winning basketball, we were winning baseball, we were winning football, and that was the whole situation. Not that anybody of doing anything that's not right, but it's different on how those guys did it. Gil and Corcoran and
Jimmy Buonicore,
Chop.
Chop. Well, I grew up with Chop.
And
Chop's a
Jimmy
classmate of
Buonicore.
mine. And but I agree with him. And Chop's is a interesting case study. I mean, growing up with him and playing with him, the thought of him coaching for 30 years is amazing. But
And how many games he won? What do you, yeah. But that's the thing, because they loved doing that. And Jimmy Buonicore, a senior, okay, that was, I never asked him, but I would assume that was his dream job when he got it, because he was at Fitch and he was up there. But
he came to us from Norwich, actually.
yeah, but he was at Fitch for a little bit too, and maybe as assistant. But he became the New London coach, and that was the big thing. And it looked, I remember I started announcing in 1983, the year after Jamal Johnson left, okay? In 83, they won. They beat Torrington, and then they beat Ansonia a couple of times in the play, you know what I mean? And so forth like that, and the Fletcher brothers, and Troy McKelvin, who's back at the school now, and they were all part of the New London situation. It was really an interesting situation. Basketball, they had players. I remember my most memorable night doing any type of game for New London was when Mike Piniella was the basketball coach at New London. Jimmy O'Neill was his assistant, okay? And they played Warren Harding at the old New Haven Coliseum. And Warren Harding had Wes Matthews, who okay. They had another guy who scored 2,000 points for UConn. They had somebody else. And John Delagrange at center court looked at that Warren Harding team. And that was the end of the game, because he just looked at them, and they weren't going to beat him. And, I mean, London didn't have great athletes. They had Johnny Delagrange, yes, they did. They had one of the Foys, and they had some other people who played soccer and other things like that. And they had the kid who came back from St. Bernard's. Oh,
Mark Lewis?
yes, to play. But, I mean, still, when Johnny Delagrange had that look, there, you knew New London was ready. That was the look that New London athletes had. And, you know, it's an interesting situation. And I love to talk to you about this. I wish that people would call in and talk about it, because, you know, it's not that New London sports are bad now. They made it to the finals.
And the basketball,
yeah. Football, they were better than what they usually, you know, but average is better than statement. And, you know, baseball will get back to where it is.
Yeah.
And you
But,
have
but on football, I mean, it's just been reported that Coach Bobby Sanchez has decided to step down after 2 years as the head coach. And, you know, I bring this up because, I mean, here you've got Vargas did 32 years as baseball coach. I don't remember off the top of my head how many that Coach Buonicore did as head coach.
he had to be
He
close
did 30
to,
plus, I'm
yeah,
sure.
he had to be well over 25. Let's just leave it at that.
And how the coaches today,
And Chop, 30.
the coaches today, they don't put in that kind of, you know, a guy like Bill Mignol over at the Ledger.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh, oh, golly.
You know, guys do 5 years and they get burnt out.
Well, what happens is, okay, you got to want to do this. Many people now, and I'm not saying Sanchez did it or anybody did it, use places as a stepping stone to other places. Whereas the New London coaches you mentioned there never did that. Okay, because matter of fact, Corcoran was at other places and came back to New London.
Yeah.
And he was at New Britain. Now, where are the football team? And that's the whole situation you have. And it's really a situation that we could talk for hours about. And, you know, and it's, you know, but they did, I'll give them a little bit of credit, they did bring Dave Cornish, who was a big-time New Londoner, in to coach.
He
Okay.
was a longtime assistant with Parker.
Yeah,
then
and with Ralph.
And that's where he started, was with Ralph.
Yeah.
And then he went to Ledyard
Yep.
as a head coach, and I think a year or two at Norwich
Yep.
before coming back to New London.
This was his dream job.
But the only, one guy who was a relatively short-termer at New London who had extraordinary success was Bob Weiss.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Bob
was,
had coached every place else before.
Well, he coached New London, and after
Fitch?
that '68 team, he went to UConn as an assistant.
Yeah, but remember he coached at Fitch?
Well, that was after he did UConn, and he was the head coach at Worcester Poly,
Yes.
and then he came back to Fitch.
Yeah.
And but I mean, he had, I think, illusions of, being the next Vince Lombardi. That didn't quite work out, but he certainly had extraordinary success at the high school level between
without a
New
doubt.
London and Fitch.
Well, if you take his '68 team in New London, you know what I mean, who you played on that team, and the first year they had the playoffs, he was in it with Fitch when they went undefeated. I mean, they had players.
They had a running back named Addison.
Joe Addison, correct. I interviewed him one day. He had sunglasses on. I thought he was Ray Charles. You know what I mean? Not that he could not see, but he with the sunglasses and stuff like that. And yeah, they were great. And he had the Billy Borden, who made the Olympics and throwing a shot put or discus or something. Yeah, and they all did. And it was a situation where, like, you knew when you played. With Bulico, look at the players that he had. Look at the players that Corcoran had. I mean, Corcoran, it's not bad to have the tight end for the Washington Redskins, who was your quarterback. And, and all of the different guys that you have play here and do things. And it's been, and in New London, it's maybe now, Marty, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 25, 30,000 people. It's not even a double L anymore, high school. And still they compete with anybody you can compete with,
Well, and in most sports, New London is usually in a larger school level part.
Yeah. Let's not forget girls basketball for a while too. Now it's going up to be excellent, and that's the point. I mean, you just don't realize the thing. But I mean, when we get back to basically the person we really wanted to speak about is Gil Vargas. I mean, Gil Vargas was, if my grandson was playing sports on a team level rather than the individual things he likes to do as a man, Gil Vargas and him would have got along fantastic. Because Bill would he'd looked at him and Bill was, don't look at me like, and they would do the different things. But Gil was very, very good. He was an intelligent man. He knew his sport beyond belief. He knew when to change pitches. He knew how to motivate people. He knew how to do everything you could do. I mean, he was fabulous. And when he came over with Avery Point, I mean, putting him to help out Roger Bidwell, not that Roger needed a whole lot of help with anything is good, but
think about that. I mean, Roger certainly had the utmost confidence
in Gil.
Well, but in himself. To
Surely.
bring in Ed Harvey and Gil Vargas, two local icons coming out of the high school ranks after long, successful careers, to be an assistant with him.
Roger knew. I mean, I knew him. I know him. Okay, it's an honor to know him, but working for him was like you knew how to do things. Once he told you something, you knew how to get the team to do it. Because if we were having kids not doing class, he would say, "Get the kid better." Well, it's easy for me to do it then. You know what I mean? And we did. We had 3.0 GPAs in all the sports. Not that there's a lot of sports over at every point, but in every sport. We put 5 guys in the major leagues. We put all kinds of different things like that. And, and I really believe that Roger would still be there if they had said, you just want to coach baseball, you don't want to be AD, or you want to do what, he would have still been there. And because I remember the young man who was the athletic director there, Travis Beausoleil, was a wonderful player for us as a second baseman.
And Travis had a terrific stint as the head coach
at Mitchell.
At Mitchell. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, he took a rather nondescript program and built a powerhouse.
Well, I don't know, and I'm sure my ignorance, I don't know who's coaching at Avery Point now. I know Travis, and he's not. But The guy's like 16-3 and won like 13 in a row. You know, and Mitchell has come on since Travis got, you know, so, but Travis was a perfect example. He went to one school, Western Mass or someplace like that. Didn't work, came to Avery Point. Boom, next thing you know, he put his time with us, went to a college. He was an assistant at Eastern and was, you know, I think he was an assistant at UConn too, a graduate assistant. And he did well. And that's the thing about these guys. There are guys around here that, for the smallness of this area, who are fabulously talented people who coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, and you can't say enough about any of them. And they really are superior on how they do things. And what they do to promote kids is even better. Because I remember...
But these guys like Travis and others, Cornish,
yeah.
They're standing on the shoulders
Oh,
of the Gil Vargas.
Yes, they are.
And the Jimmy Buhner course
Yes.
of the world. I mean,
that's easy in one sense, but it's hard to have to compete with what they did. You know, and that's the thing. I mean, I always remember, as ignorant as I was, and Ralph Ruggiero knows this because we become friends, and we talked a lot. The first year he coached, he was horrible. I think they were 7-13 or something. And we were doing a game, and they had lost in the first round of the ECC. I said, this is the worst I've ever seen. The next thing you know, state championship, state championship, state championship, state championship.
He had a terrific run as head coach.
Oh, well, you bring in Matty Rowlands, who never lost any games. I mean, he was 49-1 at New London, and they lost in a very prestigious tournament in Hartford, where a Hartford team had to win. Okay, but they won the 2 state championships. I mean, he had Gary Lancaster, Troy McKelvin. I remember they played in a state tournament game. Troy was a sophomore, and this other team had a great guard, and Troy just took the game over. Troy could take it. Like in one game, I remember one state championship game, I think it was against Ansonia, he caught like 13 passes, and they won. Yeah, I mean, imagine beating Ansonia twice in the state championships. And the other game that we played, the first time we played them, we lost at our last second play.
Right.
Gil was the assistant coach, you know what I mean? So, I mean, what if you look at the records of New London, of what they've done, you know, Fitch has done very well, too. Don't let me get, Waterford has, you know, baseball has been out of this world. Football was really good this year because their quarterback doesn't get hurt. They're state champions. And, but I mean...
I was surprised to find out that this year was the first time that Fitch had made the state title game in basketball.
Yeah.
I would have thought that over the course of time that they would have had some squads that, if it hadn't won, would have at least reached that pinnacle game.
Well, they were always double L. And when you run into a New Haven team, or you run into Hartford Public or one of those, you're not going any further. Okay? Because Fitch had some great players.
Yeah.
Okay? And, you know, Glenn Miller was one of them. Glenn Miller was an excellent player. Jimmy Charles was a very good player. I remember, who was the guy that played all 3 sports?
John Russell.
Well, they have the Miller was on Fitch, wasn't he?
Yeah, the coach. But they had a guy.
I don't mean Glenn. I mean it was another
Yeah,
Miller.
who coached later on at
Yeah.
St. Bernard stuff. But the thing that amazed me the most is they had this one guy who was one of the best athletes I've ever seen. Was great in each sport. Did football, unbelievable. Great basketball. Player, about 6'3", and he also did track. He was high jumped, but he was an unbelievable person. But there's been so many, and you know when you think about Gil, you got to think about what made him even better was the guys he coached against. Look at the guys he coached with. A guy out of Waterford, okay? You know, Jerry Russo, he ain't bad, you know. And all, you know, the guys over at Fitch were excellent, that coach too. And, you know, and it was like he was able to beat these teams. Because when you were in the CDC, well, it was difficult. But when you were in the ECC, you were a decent team. You wanted to be in the top division. You don't want to be 2, 3, whatever it was like that. Because you wanted to play.
In New London, I'm going to say, at least from when Gil started back in 68, 69 or thereabouts, you know, for the better part of 20, 25 years, New London had a terrific program.
Oh.
And the kids played baseball in New London. We had, you know, 2 little leagues with 7 teams with 15 kids.
Yeah.
And you had minor leagues and a competitive Babe Ruth.
Oh, without a doubt.
And Jimmy O'Neill coached
The Legion.
for Legion for years and had extraordinary success. And you know, it's not there now. I mean, as you mentioned just a few moments ago, Waterford and I believe Montville are kind of the 2 leaders of the pack in baseball.
Oh, well, Phil Aubie, before he went to London High School, was won a number of state championships.
Kind of held the torch in recent years.
Yep. And see, you know,
London doesn't have the kids playing anymore.
well, that's true because a lot of kids, if you look at any school, unless you have a superior coach and motivator who makes the kids believe they'll go on to the next level, you don't have as many kids playing. There are many teams in this area with 35, 40 guys. That's the maximum in football. And that was not the way it was when these other teams, NFA, Norwich, Ledyard, New London, everybody put, you know, all kinds of people out, and they had over almost 100 kids in their programs. Because when they come out on the field, it took them a while to get there. And the basketball teams used to be full. And the baseball was another sport that you played, and they were really good here. And I'm amazed because hopefully it won't rain, because I think our baseball season for high school starts Saturday. And, you know, which is always good to do, because there's some good, you know, you think about it as what's really neat is when you get older like me is, I used to think it was special when I knew a kid's father who played. Now I know their grandfathers. And, you know.
Yeah. Folks, you're watching City Focus, and I'm Marty Olsen, your host. And I'm joined by my good friend and yours, Mike McLaughlin. And we're just having a fun conversation about whatever. We are trying to put a little bit of time in thoughts and remembrances of Coach Gil Vargas, who passed away recently. And if you have any memories of Gil as a player, as a coach, just as a friend, maybe as a teacher at New London High, feel free to give us a buzz. We'd love to hear from you at 860-445-7499.
And you know what questions we should ask them? And say, look, if you want to call and ask us, if you know who you think was the best coach in New London in any of the sports, or who was the most hated. Because it seems that, you know, because I just, you know, you go through this type of situation, and when you win, it's easy to be gracious, but people don't like to lose to the same people all the time. I mean, it was like, you know, when you beat Gil Vargas in a game, you had done something. You know what I mean? Because he probably only going to lose 4 games that year, so you don't want to be the person who plays him after he got beat.
Yeah. Well, Gil was I think, you know, extraordinary in his capacity to, at the high school level, to get his teams to play such sound, fundamental baseball. And he was a coach who played small ball.
Yes.
Before it was popular. I mean, he could take a guy who'd walk and they'd steal a base and they'd do double steals and do things that would rattle the opposing defense or pitcher and get that extra run that could be the difference between winning and losing.
He knew when to do what. He knew when to run. He knew when to have the guys hit away, when for the guys to bunt, when to move the infield in, when to move that. He was a perfect example of 95% of the time he played percentages, but the other 5, he took a shot, and it was very effective for him. You know.
And he was the man about town as a young fellow too, as a athlete in Southeastern High School.
Big school.
And played football, basketball, and baseball, and a member of the Southeastern High School Hall of Fame.
Could you forget how tall he was? Because he was always with Jimmy O'Neill. So you should have thought he was even taller.
And Jim Bunacore. I mean,
those two guys.
Those two physical giants there.
But they could coach. Oh, could they coach? I mean,
what different styles between O'Neill and Gil? I mean, Jimmy was a bit laid back and wholly different than Gil. Gil was more militaristic, I would say.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy had a major advantage. He was taking the best players from 3 good schools, so you could lay back with those guys. With Gil, had to make it happen with the kids on his campus, which were good players. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he had a pitcher that pitched for Eastern, a big guy who was really a good pitcher who later pitched for Eastern Connecticut and other people like that. He had players that, you would just see, and people who just wanted to play. But he always had good catches. He always had things, you know what I mean? And you can't commend him enough, for how he did. And he was a very interesting person in his gym class, too, because it wasn't just we got a baseball game. You did the gym. You did his gym class. You did his class. And it was, it was something that he was always looking forward to you. And like I try to tell the kids now when I go to the different, Montville's where I go all the time now, but you cannot know what will happen in your life. You may think you're an athlete and you're being recruited. What do you do if you're in in-house suspension because you wanted to fool with somebody and the coach who's recruiting you comes down to see you? He's just walking out the door. And that is the thing that kids don't realize, because everything that you do can affect what you do. And you want it to be positive. And most of the kids that Gil had ended up doing positive things.
Yeah. Well, one thing that, as we've noted, with Gil coming in, now you had already finished school, but matter of fact, you were probably through with South Carolina by that time.
Well, I got out at 65, so I was probably through graduate school by then.
But I know that as a young teenager, Gil could be very intimidating.
Oh, yeah, he's a big guy.
And, you kind of towed the line, and if you didn't like it, and some guys would quit the program because they just couldn't take it.
Yeah. Well, guess what? He had that voice, too. Big guys don't, but big guys with a voice have a command.
Yeah. But I was able to, and I give Gil credit for this because he reached out to develop a rapport with him as an adult.
Yes.
That I never would have expected when I hit probably at the age of about 50 or so, where we would, if you're at a ball game, you'd sit together and chat and discuss the ball game and what's going on, and that grew, and it was very positive.
Well, see, you and he would be very good complements to each other, okay? Because he's been on the bench, which you get a different outlook on, and you have been announcing or been in the stands and doing things and looked at it from a different perspective. And so when you put the two of you together, there's some very interesting conversation that can come apart. And as well, I did this, but I've seen other games from other teams where the teams did this, and then you have a discussion of what you do. And I remember there's a lot of memorable nights with Gil, especially when it was at Avery Point. But the night they had for him a couple of years ago at the golf course.
That was his 80th birthday out at Langley's. What a nice party.
Everybody's talking so positive. Everybody did such a situation. And, and it's good because when you think about it, he had to do, and this is what I said about him, and he had to do one of the most difficult things that you ever have to do in New London. You, as an outsider from Southington, have to win this population over. Because you look, Jimmy O'Neill, New London. Casey O'Neill, New London. Marty Olsen, New London. Jim Bunacore, New London. Jim Bunacore Jr., New London. Jackie Cochran, New London. You start to look at it. Dave Cornish, New London.
Oh, Chop Parker.
Chop Parker, New London. And so he had to do something to do that. And that's the important part. Because if he doesn't win, but he won. And that's how he fit in with them. Not that that was his primary motivation to win, but I'm saying if you look, he was always with these other people because New London was so special to them. And it still is. Okay? I mean, when you talk about New London High School and you talk about the different things of what they have a unique situation there. Okay, they have wonderful facilities. Okay, they have people who have been related to or been fathered by or mothered by people who were great athletes. And they have a continuous thing, like there's families that you may name in New London, which have a continuous flow of people always playing, or coaching, or doing whatever they want. And, you know, I mean, I would have to think, you know, and I don't know her personally, and I apologize to her for not meeting her, but basically we've been doing football, or we do some baseball and the other things, that we haven't done a whole lot of girls basketball. But for this lady who coaches basketball in New London, with the skills she has, to be there still now is an amazing situation of how good programs that New London are.
Well, listen, she this year she lost her best player, who after her Serenity Lancaster was the best player on the team, and after her sophomore year opted to go prep.
Yep.
And this year she didn't have quite the talent.
Yep.
But after a slow start, she was able to pull it together, and the team, I think, overachieved.
Surely.
And you know that takes a lot of good coaching and getting the kids believing in themselves.
Well, I think that's what good coaches do. Okay, everybody thinks you just got talent. I've seen guys with a whole lot of talent lose. Okay, you have to get the kids to believe in themselves. That was the biggest thing of anything that Roger Bidwell ever did. Was he got the kids to believe in themselves. He got them to believe in themselves on the baseball field, where he was unbelievable, and he had his assistant coaches. But he also found me, who could get the kids to believe in themselves academically. And once they found out they could do it, I mean, it is amazing. I have a guy call me the other day from San Diego. When he first came to Avery Point, he was lucky he could get into there. And now he went to Catholic University. He was in the Marine Corps, he was an officer, and now he's a lieutenant on the San Diego Police Force. And just all these different people that call, oh, this one was a doctor, this one's a lawyer. And this is the thing, because they believed that if they did it on the field, in the college situation, and they did it in the classroom, that they could play. And that was the amazing thing. Well, look at what they have. You have right now, you have a pitching coach, and I think he still is, for the Toronto Blue Jays, who is from East Lyme, okay? And you have a batting coach from the things who's with the Baltimore Orioles. And the batting coach batted for us 100 his first year. And I said, Ryan Fuller is his name. Help me with the guy. The guy's got a perfect name in East Lyme. It's the family name. Oh, come on. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about two. We'll think about a few of them. But it's a big-time family. And he was great. He pitched. He beat Pedro Martinez in the game when he pitched for the Mets. Pete Walker.
Oh, I know Pete. Yeah. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know that. Yeah, he's up in Toronto as a pitching coach.
Yeah.
He's got I didn't know this, but he's got the longest tenure of any pitching coach in the big leagues right now.
Oh, yeah. He's on the... And, like I said, so Ryan Flores, I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I said, Ryan, I don't even think you're going to play here next year. The next thing you know, he hit 15 home runs that year. He was exceptional. He went to UConn, played high AAA major leagues, a great person from Old Saybrook, okay? And he just did, and I'm so proud of him to be the batting coach for the Baltimore Orioles. And someone may call and say he's at another team now, but I know he's still the batting coach, and last year we was with both Orioles. And that's the thing. It's when you get kids like this, when you see kids like that, who all of a sudden come together. Oh, Jackie McDonald, what a player!
Well, Johnny McDonald, is he with the? He's still in the big leagues as a
Doing something.
coaching or scouting. I mean,
he's doing something.
I think with the Indians or the Guardians, I guess is the.
Rajay Davis, what better person you can find than him? I'll never forget when he hit the home run in the 6th game with Cleveland Indians in the World Series.
They win that game. He's a hero.
Yeah, and he brought a thing in from a restaurant out in Waterford, and he had the Indians rub it when they hit home runs. So it got such advertisement, the restaurant went off to it, you know what I mean? But Rajay is a tremendous person. When you hear him speak, and when you know what I mean? And that's the whole situation. I mean, and he got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates rather than going to college, okay?
That was like about the 25th round, too.
Yeah, and he made the major leagues for numerous teams. Pittsburgh Pirates, and he played for Cleveland Indians, which is probably his best team. And that's the thing. And like I said, Pete Walker beat the guy there, Pedro Martinez, in the game when the Mets were playing the Red Sox. And you can go on and on and on about these different things, and it's all because of the guys who coached them and helped them. And Gil was part of the basketball. Gil was part of the football. You know, Gil, I'm sure he helped out. Obviously, he's baseball and football, sure, but he helped out in basketball, too, because I just can't believe if you're a basketball player, you just said, no problem. and that's the thing. But, Marty, just think of the kids that you see.
How many, as a coach, how many young men primarily did Gil touch between being a coach and teacher at New London High School? His calling hours are tomorrow night at Nealon's in New London at the end of Ocean Avenue from 5 to 7. If anybody's interested or contemplating to attend.
Be prepared to not find a parking place.
We'll have a park up in the, where First National used to be, where you got the...
Or you can park across just some other places.
But and it might be a bit of a wait, but I think you can be there and see folks rub elbows and pay your respects. His wife was a doll. She's a real sweet woman.
And when you will hear such positivity when they speak, the only guys who'll be mad at him are the guys that lost to him. And that's why they're mad, not because they're mad because they lost. And, and that becomes a unique situation. And I can go through lists of people, and I'll talk to you about on the way home, of about 10 people from New London who are so misinterpreted by other people that even you, Marty, I mean, we should, we want you back in politics. I'm not going to say what, but we want you back in politics, okay? You're looking sharp tonight with a sports coat, you got your haircut. We want you back in politics. See, I can say we want you back because it isn't going to do me any good to get involved in politics. I'm the only Democrat to lose, okay? So, I mean, I lost by 15 votes to run for the Board of Education to people who I never even knew who they were, but so that's me. But, but everybody...
I've been on the long and the short end of elections in New London.
But everybody will listen to us on the radio, but they don't want to vote for me, because they all remember how did he ever do this? He couldn't, how's he do a football game? He couldn't even kick a ball. Well, I had 2 broken legs. It kind of slowed me down. But anyhow, but that's the thing. I know we talk about New London a lot, and I know, and it's because it's a part of us, okay, that is important, okay? And it's like who we are, okay? Because if I don't have Mr. Foy straightening me out, or I don't have...
Emphasis on Mr. Foy.
Oh, yes, he's still Mr. Foy, even if he's passed away. Not Richie, Mr. Foy, Bill. Not Billy, Bill. Okay, he was Mr. Foy. You know what I mean? And he was an unbelievable man. He showed me. And the other one was Dr. He taught POD at Problems of Democracy, but he was
that would have been Dr. Frank.
Yes.
Charles Frank.
I remember when I went to 8th grade, I was so smart. I could do anything. And then I wanted to play football, and I broke my leg, and I couldn't play. Probably I was a lousy player anyhow. But anyhow, so I was mad at the world. And he had a homeroom where the junior high school is now, which was then the high school. And he said, "Kid, all you do is complain." He says, "I'm going to give you somebody to complain to." He says, I got 100 people in my homeroom. We're going to get you elected student council so you can go talk to Mr. Foyle. And all of a sudden, it wakes up. You do these things, and you do. Next thing you know, I figured out how to take the college boards, and I'm going to this college, that college. And that's the whole thing. Because there are people who can change your lives. They're good, and there are people who can change your lives negatively.
Yeah.
And the kids, unfortunately, now don't, to the larger number, realize which is the good and which is the bad. Because what they think is good is going to be bad for them. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as I told Sir before. I'm working for John Rowland for the state of Connecticut. And I had to go to all kinds of high schools within the state to make sure if the people who were collecting the state aid, their kids over 16 were in high school. And I'm standing in a place in Fairfield. And the coach of UCLA comes in. And he said, do you know this kid? And I said, I don't work here, sir, but I know who he is because I follow basketball. He's best friend, you know what I mean? So he says, take me to where I said, okay, I'll walk you down. So we're talking, and there were some teachers talking in front of the hallways because between classes. And he sees this lady and says, oh, so-and-so, I haven't seen you since college. What are you doing here? She said, well, it was Bridgeport, it wasn't Fairfield, I'm sorry. And he said, well, my husband works in Fairfield, and I sub here and help out and do this. He says, do you know this kid? And she said something that I can't say on radio. And he says to me, show me the door. And he had a full scholarship to UCLA for him because the kid didn't know how to present himself in the right manner. And that's what happens to some of the kids. I don't, you know. He went on to play for somebody else, but not of the magnitude of UCLA. And it wasn't John Wooden. I'm not going to lie and say I knew John Wooden. If you watch ESPN, you'll see the guy. But that's the whole situation that we deal with, and this is what we have to do again.
Yeah, but this is one of the things, one of the coaches at New London that I think got that for sure was Juan Roman.
Oh, without a doubt. You cannot get a better person than Juan Roman. And Juan Roman had one of the most unfortunate things done to him. He went to Norwich University with Jackie Cochran, and it didn't work there, whatever, and I can understand that.
Well, but, I mean, it was, he played football, I don't know if he played the entire season, but part of his freshman season, and
transferred to Central.
He transferred to Central because I think he actually took a year or two off.
I don't think he took, because what they said.
At least one, because.
Yeah, and they said to him, because he had played there, he was going to be captain his senior year at Central, and the NCAA said he couldn't play.
Yeah,
to overcome
he
that.
He got screwed.
To overcome that and be the person he is now, to put two boys at Yale, the girl at Fordham or wherever she went, and to be the person that he is really, it's unbelievable because we give out scholar athletes on Thanksgiving Day to the Legend Fish. And one of the kids who won was named Roman so forth. He was a good family friend of Juan, so they named the kid Roman. But Juan was a great player. When they gave up, when Juan was a senior in 1983, 32 points at New London that year, for the whole year, and half of it was when the subs were in the games and stuff like that. And Juan was a vicious, unbelievable linebacker. When you talk about two people in New London, that if they sat with us right now, Tommy Major and Juan Roman, you would never realize that they would tackle you if you ran into the stands.
And those two guys, and they're not quite a generation apart. I mean, Tommy's a year older than me, and Juan's maybe 10 or 11 years younger.
And Juan is 83.
And they're best of buddies, those two guys.
Yeah. If you played in 83, it's class of 84. And if Tommy played his last year in 68, it's class of 69. And how about Tommy? You talk about bad luck. He's a pro player if he doesn't wreck his knee at Maryland Eastern Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. And life is funny, but all of a sudden, he came and waited his turn and became the recreation director for New London. And, and that meant something to him. And but you talk about people like that. Those are unbelievable people. Now, yes, does every town have people like that? Yes, okay, but these people are special. When you talk about Juan Roman, you're talking about a special guy.
Yep, salt of the earth.
And he could hit you. Boy, could he play. I remember he was going to play somewhere over in Europe or someplace else for a year or something. And we had a big dinner for him, so they got me to throw in some so he could go, you know. But he was a good person, you know what I mean? And what a job. What a perfect job he had, talking to those other kids, you know what I mean? And he was a very good coach when he coached, okay? But, you know, and that's the situation. Because, see, it's hard when you're a great player, I think, because I never was, okay, that how do you deal with it when the kids don't want to try as hard as you or do the different things that you did, okay? I mean, because Juan, Jackie Cochran, Tommy Major, all got to where they are by the hard work that they would do. Nobody outworked them. You know what I mean? And that was the thing. Because I always remember Tommy Major when he was our recreation director. And we were doing the summer camps. We'd be getting ready to do them as we do now. And he only, and all the new kids would come in from the high schools or the colleges that were going to work in the camp. And he only come in and spoke about one thing. He says, you're in New London. He says, there are two things that are important. You don't wear your hat sideways. You don't wear your hat backwards. You wear it, if you're wearing a hat, you wear it to the front. And if you're going to some place and you're going to be a clown, you don't wear this recreation shirt when you go. And he got the message across. That's the whole situation. And, you know, and it's amazing. I mean, I don't, you know, think about, you know, the different things that we have. And think about, let me ask you one question. And
You can ask me two or three there, Mike.
No,
we
I
can
gotta
roll
ask you one.
reverse here.
But the whole situation is this. We had a city manager form of government,
Yep.
okay? And not a whole lot of time ago, it changed.
About a dozen years ago.
Yeah. That'd be about almost correct. Would you think that was a good move?
No.
I mean, I don't mean from the results, but I mean, would you think it was a good move? Because you were a mayor.
I was the last mayor before they changed.
Yeah, the honorary, yeah.
And I was on the council that we had the Charter Revision Commission that
Yeah.
brought this forward, and the council voted to bring it to a referendum. And they actually had 3 referendums before this passed.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's good that you're saying this because people don't know
I
that.
mean, what I supported at the time, again, this is 12, 13 years ago, is I felt that it merited a vote of the people.
Yes.
Whether or not I supported it, but you had a right to vote, the franchise to vote everybody else
Yes.
to make that decision.
Yeah.
I believe that depending on the individual, whether could be a city manager or a mayor, can effectively do the job, but also can equally be
Not
awful.
effective. Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that Finenzio and or Passero have been awful, but I think that has not been we have not had the professional that you need who's got the background in public administration like a Frank Driscoll.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say one other thing. Is I remember you running for mayor, not as the honorary, but because
No,
you're
I
a
ran for the mayor, yeah.
Yes. And you asked a simple question, and this might be a good thing to end the show with. You said back in the charter, it said that if you run a department, you have to live in New London.
That's correct. That provision is still in the chart.
Yes. I mean, so it seems, why is that so difficult to do? I mean, it's been a charter since 1636, okay? And, you know, I don't know. That amazes me because, you know, you would think with all the people that are in New London and all the people that care about New London and all the people that want nothing but the best for New London, that we could find people. I mean, you know.
Well, I think that those who are applying for jobs, for department head jobs, ought to know when they apply that a requirement is to live in New
Yeah,
London.
that means you can move. You don't have to be there to begin. You may move.
But right now, I mean, we have our police chief does not live in New London. Our director of public works has not, although I believe he may have moved in very recently.
Mm-hmm.
Our superintendent of schools does not live
I think
in
our
New London.
fire chief does live in New London.
Our fire chief,
Maybe
our new
not
one
the new
does
one.
not.
No, but the old one, because I remember his
Curcio
son.
did.
Yeah, because his son
And
played for us at
before
Avery
him
Point.
was Henry Kidd, and Henry lives.
Oh
in
yeah,
London.
Henry Kidd used to live right next to my mother. Yeah.
You know, Tommy, when he was the major, that is, when
Yeah.
he lived in London. I don't know if the new guy.
He does. He lives, Posey, he lives by Bartlett Yard, a couple of streets down across. Mr. Posey does. You know,
Yeah.
so, but you know,
Our finance director lives in Groton Long Point.
well, he's doing a good job there. But I mean, you know, and you say this, and it's hard not when your topic and it's your show, not to talk about New London, okay? And unfortunately, when you're old like me, you remember other things in the past, and you remember other things of this or that or what have you. And when you take a topic that we talk about tonight about Gil Vargas, he is a period of time where things were so successful on every arena.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Well, I wanted to share with you that I have folks who watch this program, and they do.
Yeah.
And they love it when I have you on because they enjoy our conversation about the New London
Yeah.
and about some of the men and women who have made it what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And you bring a breadth of scope to that conversation that is appreciated by the audience. So for that, thanks.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity because I'd be talking like you anyhow. If we're doing a game, we do the same thing. But you know what the amazing thing is? That when you look at New London, you have 3 colleges. How many towns of 25,000 have 3 colleges? You have an electric boat here, an electric boat right across the river. You have FISAs. You have the sub base right up the road. What more could you ask for and not have 300 or 400,000 people here?
Well, at the rate they're building apartments, it may happen.
Oh, who's the this? I'll tell you, they may say what they want, but when I go to Montville High School in the morning, that's when the shift at New London gets out. So when I'm going down Pico Avenue, they're flying out of there. And they're not going to Montville, they're going to it. And as you get by the Coast Guard Academy, people from Groton are coming on 395 and 3. They're not going to anywhere near around here. But that's the situation. Those people choose. We can't say. But, you know, it's an amazing situation. I would hope that you don't give up on the political situation. Because, you know, I always wished, of course, now you got to remember I'm a Democrat and I lost, but I always wished, okay, that we had a New London party.
Yeah.
Okay? Not Republicans, but New London party. I think that's our signal.
Well, we're pushing the envelope here on our time, so I want to just take this opportunity to say, Mike, as always, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yes?
And we'll have you back soon. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation tonight. I've had Mike McLaughlin on, and we'll be back again next week. I won't have you on next week. I'll have somebody on next week.
Well, then maybe you'll get someone to watch and call.
Well, I know people watch. In 3 weeks, I do have Tony D from, who's a star on Lee Elsie's program.
Oh,
He'll
yes.
be coming in and keep me company for the hour. And we're
And
working
you
on
are
it.
a star on Lee Elsie's show.
And I have fun on Lee. He's been very, very
Isn't
kind.
he? What a change in a person. It's unbelievable. He's good man.
All righty, folks. Well, with this, we're going to have to say goodnight. We'll see you next week. Take care. Good night.